Welcome to the podcast where two guys talk about stuff and drink coffee.
You can't handle the truth!
This is the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
And three,
And now for your listening enjoyment.
1. Hey listeners, this is Phil with the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast. I'm here with my BFF, Jimmy Nic. Say hey, Jimmy Nic.
Hey, this is Jimmy Nic.
Hey guys, before we get started, I want to remind everybody how we can connect to our podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube with Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast, Spreaker, Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast, and also now we are on the Apple Podcast app, same name and title, and so we're expanding our horizons on how people can connect with us. So I'm really excited about that. Again, if you have any questions, anything like that, I do encourage everybody to stay connected as well, because we're going to have stuff like giveaways and also special guests. And so we're pretty excited about that. I'm almost scared to ask you the same question, Jimmy Nic, but how was your week?
How was my week, eh? Well, I don't know. Let's get back to... Did you get any feedback this week from anybody? I got a little bit. You know.
I didn't get any personal feedback, no.
Yeah, I mean, Big Sammy B, he said he was riding on his car back from Kansas there, and he's telling me that he listened to that part. And he said, I got 800 friends. He said, they're really my friends. So, he got a friend. He got friends around the world, so.
Yeah.
I said, okay, man, all right.
I believe Brother Bynum has 800 friends he knows. Like,
yeah.
Are people he actually has connected with,
Yeah, I know. I mean, because this guy, I never met anybody that wouldn't like this guy.
Right.
This guy's something else. I mean,
yeah.
It's special people, And then, I don't know, Pastor mentioned something about, I don't know, some little comment I made about, Jesse Duplantis, but...
That was good. I was with him when he was listening to that. Oh, he just died laughing. It's awesome.
Yeah, so, anyway, maybe we can get together and get him some kind of toy plane to play with.
We'll have to get the biggest one.
Yeah, the biggest toy plane.
Biggest series plane. Well, yeah, there was we haven't gotten any emails yet, but of course it was only our first episode, so.
But does that thing even work?
It does.
I never got nothing off of it.
Really?
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Check that out. But you don't have an Apple phone, so.
Well, I also got a Gmail. It's Gmail. So.
Gmail.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this here. Samsung makes a very fine product.
See, you have a Samsung. That's the problem.
Now, Samsung makes a very fine product, and they're running a special this month. In fact, if they wouldn't mind sending me one free, I'd be glad to try that out and get back to you. And if they want to, I could recommend it to people that listen to this thing. So, if you're out there, Samsung, I'm available.
There you go. Another shameless plug by Jimmy Nic there.
Might as well get another one while I'm thinking of it. If you ever headed down south, down Highway 81, stop in there at Union City at the old Dairy Mart. I mean, they make the best cheeseburgers in this part of the country, as far as I'm concerned. Might get down there and try that out and say hi to Jimmy and Nikki while you're down there.
I'm expecting some sponsorships here. We've got to get some sponsorships.
I'm working on a free burger.
Yeah, you are. And free Iron Tree.
Free Iron Tree, free phones.
Free phones. What else can we go out there?
Democrat, don't I?
Whoa. Hey.
What? Everything free.
Can't handle the truth, right?
Can't handle the truth. Everything free. Everything free. But anyway.
Well, we are getting in the studio here and having a good old time. I do want to announce that we will be having a special guest in our next episode, and it's a a gentleman that is, well, he's a disciple, so I'm excited to hear him talk, and we're gonna ask him some questions and let him share his heart with us and you listeners as well about being a disciple, what that means to him, how that has changed his life as a Christian, going from believer to disciple, and maybe he'll talk a little bit about the transition to that too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You know, it's good to have a disciple in the house, at least one of us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's right. We're all working on that.
And we're talking true discipleship here, okay? We're talking New Testament.
New Testament.
I'm not going through a workbook here, okay?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's a firm believer in the 242, so.
That's right.
I'd like to see that happen, and hopefully it will down the line there. But hopefully we'll all come together on this and see that the Lord is our number one, and that's who we should invest all of our life into, is Him first, and everything else will flow from that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What do you think the hindrances are from believers becoming disciples?
Well, for one thing, there's really not a program, and you really can't go by program here. I mean, it can't be a program. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a disconnect, I think, between how you live your life, and because churches do have programs, and you go through a program, you get through, it's over, it's finished, and that's it. You know? Mm-hmm. But this is a way of life, and for it to be a way of life, it has to be something that you got to have the continuity, and you got to live it.
Right.
And being a disciple of Christ means you got to live it. Now, we don't necessarily want to live it. That's one of the main problems.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. We have so many issues in our life that draws us away, but you know, I think a lot of people too are confused on the actual definition of or lifestyle of a believer to a disciple, because I mean,
well, they're not the same. I mean,
right.
You can be a believer and not be a disciple. Like this article I was telling you about here, this guy was talking about, in the 1970s, they came up with, the Army became all volunteer Army, and they came up with this deal, be all you can be, join the Army, it's a great place to start, and they go into, you can get a college education, more or less 4 years in the Army or whatever, and it's like a good technical college. You're going to learn something, and then you have all the benefits what come out of it.
Right.
And they said, first Gulf War broke out, and all of a sudden, whoa, what do you mean we got to go fight? Well, the same ways with Christians, we don't mind coming in where there's no cost involved. Mm-hmm. And so, but when it comes down to it, and you're told, well, no, and they excuse it. Well, I'm sorry, it's not my contract. I wasn't supposed to go fighting anything. I was just supposed to get an education and better myself. And I think we kind of do that as far as when we become Christians, we kind of get that's the whole idea there.
Right.
That there's no battle to be fought here, and that just isn't what we're in for here.
No, and you're right. It is a battle. We are in a war, and discipleship is what equips you for that war. It's like when Jesus said, when the Son of Man shall return, shall he find faith? That's what an indicting question for today.
I know it's a hard thing to really get your mind around nowadays, because you have what they call pseudo marriage and pseudo discipleship, which is like, people nowadays, they want to try it out. They don't want to commit to it. They want to try out marriage. That's why you got everybody living together anymore before they get married, or they just never get married. Mm-hmm. They want to try it out. Well, basically what we've got into Christianity is we want to try it out first.
Yeah.
And see what's involved. And we're not willing to commit to it. We're not willing to take that permanent stance, that commitment to God, to Christ that we should take. Just like you took with your wife. You made a permanent, lifelong commitment to her.
Right.
And we're not willing to do that. And so there's really no discipleship there, because we're not willing to die to self, take up the cross, and follow Him. Mm-hmm. And what do you see? He says, you can't be my disciple unless you do all three of those things.
That's right.
Not only that, you got to be able to walk away from, your family, basically. Anybody. Walk away from everything. If He isn't first, I mean, if it required you to walk away, it's not necessarily going to require that.
Mm-hmm.
But, if they come against you, totally against what you're doing, you may have to walk away.
Yeah.
But because he has to come first. And we can never really be true disciples unless we're willing to die to self, take up our cross, and follow him. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wants to do that, I don't mind going halfway on this stuff, It's a lot easier. I mean,
It's
when you do it, you just kind of, well, it's pardon the pun, but, you kind of half-ass everything.
Yeah.
It's true,
Yeah, it's true.
If you can get away with it,
Mm-hmm.
but sooner or later it's going to come back at you, I found out probably after I became a Christian, that's what made it so easy when I did walk away for over a decade there, was simply because, I didn't have no real irons in the fire.
Right.
I wasn't willing to totally commit to this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to totally commit to this, who you fooling? You're not fooling him. And what are you getting out of it?
Yeah.
I mean, if all I'm going to do is come to church, sit down, get up, go home, maybe sing a few songs, listen to the preacher and go home, come back again and again and again and again. What am I going to get out of that? I get nothing out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to gain nothing from it. You might as well just stay home, I guess.
Yeah.
Because basically, there's no difference in it.
Well, because it becomes somewhat of a country club
Yeah,
a mindset churches are today, because whether they actively say it or not, but people come in with an expectation of how you can bless them.
Right. It's all about me. It's all
Right.
about me getting blessed and what's in it for me.
Right.
And when you start talking about, you got to give up everything, or, be willing to walk away from it, even die to it, nobody want to do that. You want to take the easy road. We're going to find the easiest path of resistance and do the least possible and expect, great results from that. We're not going to get it.
No.
It's not going to happen. Then we sit around and complain about how church is. Well, we just aren't willing to do what we need to do as individuals. And if we don't have a drive and a desire for this, then what are we doing here? That's what are we doing here if we don't have that drive and desire for it? Why do you come to church?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be number one. I walked away from him, and he came and got me, and and of course I went through some troubles with that.
Mm-hmm.
But he came and he got me and brought me back when he should have probably just left me out there, because that's about what I was really worth to him. It was absolutely nothing, but not to him though. Apparently I meant something to him.
Right.
That he was willing to come and get me and bring me back. And so you've got to have a desire to want him. And if you don't have that desire, I don't know what. I don't know if you can ever really truly be a disciple unless you have a desire. Otherwise, you're a learner, but you're not giving up anything. I can have an intellectual understanding with him,
Right.
like I did before, but there wasn't any real desire there because I really didn't know him. I knew about him, but I didn't have no personal relationship with him.
Right.
And things have changed. It's not easy. I still have the same problems.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'll get lazy on it. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, but but even that, in a personal level like that, that's why God had instituted the church to help in that endeavor as well.
That's part of it. Is that we I don't want to be the Lone Ranger out there,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not. I mean, I need you, and I need the rest of the members of this church.
Right.
Because you try to go through this by yourself, it's not going to work. That's why we need church.
Mm-hmm.
So people think that church is just 2 hours on Sunday morning or something. I mean, you're missing out on the whole purpose of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just to come on Sundays.
Well, you take. You mentioned 2:42. Obviously,
Right.
we're referring Acts 2:42, where they continue steadfast in the apostles' doctrine, fellowship, breaking of bread, and prayers. That was a lifestyle for them. So if you see through Acts 2, through Acts 5, kind of see what's happening there in the New Testament church, which what a lot of churches claim to be New Testament churches, but it's been their church culture has been infiltrated by the American culture. And so that's why we got to go purely New Testament. And I will tell you, if you go purely New Testament, you are going to look radical and weird in today's society. Because they didn't hype up every day for Sunday. That's what it wasn't for. Obviously, they were scattered. They were house to house every day. Now, that's not saying they were in necessarily a small, every Monday night at 6 o'clock there's a small group. Not something like that, but hey, there was 3, 4, or 5 people that were over at this place at this time, and and they were coming around, and in that you grow the intimacy. And what I see in our churches today is a lot of people isolate themselves from that family, and their friends and their connections are a lot greater out in the world than they are in the church. So really, like you're saying, there's a fine line there where they're facing, and it ends up being just, hey, you're just playing church.
Right, and just playing church. No, there was a daily interaction between these people. I mean, they were involved in each other's lives, and through that process, that they were able to, move forward with the cause of Christ. And in fact, they probably worked on that more times than not, but they also were there for each other, trying to help each other grow in their relationship with Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need each other for.
Right.
And if we aren't willing to be honest with each other, if we can't be honest with each other, I know people get that, well, I don't want them to think that about me. Well, I'm sorry, but, I'm a big mess up myself. I'm a mess on most days, and, I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, amen. That's right.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, we do need each other. We need that fellowship. We need that intimacy, be able to share and help. That's what we see in the book of Acts was, they were so neatly together and unified that when somebody saw somebody else needed help, even if it was financially, they'd go sell a piece of land to help that member, or that person.
And make sure you don't hold something back. You know what happened to that one couple.
Oh yes, that's right.
You do not want to. You do not want to mess with the Holy Spirit.
No, you'll end up.
Yeah, they'll carry you out. That's for sure.
Well, I think there's a lot of that going on in churches today, and again, we gotta go purely New Testament.
Well, it's New Testament. Let's talk about getting into this thing for real. Instead of the pseudo Christian life we're trying to live. Mm-hmm. It's me plus Jesus instead of Jesus and I'm in the middle of that with him.
Right.
But we want to add Jesus as an add-on. And there's one thing he's talking about there Sunday about things that bother you, in school ministry.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Mine would be is somebody referring to this as an activity.
Yeah.
My church activity. I have an activity. As if you just bunch it in with a bunch of activities, and it can't be that. It's got to be your life.
That's right.
If you aren't willing to turn it all over to him, I'm working. I'm still a work in progress. I haven't arrived at that. I'm still working on it.
Right.
Still wanting to die to. I want to die to self. I prefer doing it his way, and it works.
And again, I think we can't clarify this enough, though. When we're talking about church, we're not talking about a Sunday morning service.
No.
That's got to be out of our vocabulary. That, and of course we know that, we understand that, but that's going to be out of our vocabulary that, hey, when we talk about church, we're talking about a Sunday morning service. A church is a citizenry, right. It is the assembly. And, whether, you...
Well, we should be a group of people that love Christ, that with all of our warts and everything, that we come together and that we grow in Christ together. Mm-hmm. It's like a marriage. It is a marriage. Aren't we his bride?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing too good.
No. I mean, we're cheating on him.
We're cheating on him left and right.
Yeah.
And if something, and the only way it's going to change is if each one of us decide, I want what he wants. I want it the way he wants.
And you said it. We have to decide that.
Right.
You know, you have people in your life to help you and to coach you and to encourage and to teach and train and all that stuff. But initially, it's our decision to say, I want that.
I want that, and I won't settle for anything less.
Right.
You know, and be committed to that. Because what do you got to lose? You got everything to gain from this. People act like they got something to lose. I mean, you gain Christ.
Yeah.
You gain all of it. We're going to go spend eternity with him. You know what that means? Oh, man. You know, you get thinking about that, you know, it blows my little brain all the way. You know, I got brain all over the floor over there, you know.
That's right.
Kind of rough looking.
Clean up on aisle 3.
Yeah, it's me, all right. It just explodes, you know. But, yeah, it's the most amazing thing that's can ever happen to anyone's life, and yet we marginalize it. Mm-hmm. You know, so are we just all crazy? Really? I mean, the time I wasted after I was saved and the things that I went through believing what I believed and the way I went about it through church, that it was a total waste of time. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until he came and got me 12 years ago that things changed. Things came around and I started seeing it for what it truly is. Yeah. Once you start seeing it for what it really is, I mean, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to anybody, you know. But we don't treat it like that.
Yeah. Well, who really experiences that stuff, you know? I mean, I didn't know what I know now unless somebody took and trained me and poured their life into me. And
yeah, well, that's what I didn't have. I didn't have somebody doing that. You know, I came along later in life, of course. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's basically, you know, Sunday school, church, you know, Sunday evenings, you know, fifth Sunday singing, you know.
Yeah.
That was rough. Well, man, some of them people, don't give them a microphone.
That's
you know
right. What are you thinking?
What are you thinking there, man? Sit down. Oh, the back row's leaving. Some rough stuff there. Plus the beans and cornbread, but that's the whole story. Anyway.
Beans and cornbread. Man, you go back.
I wasn't taught anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't use that as an excuse because I do have his word. I do have prayer, but I didn't have the relationship with him. It wasn't until I started developing a relationship, and basically I just asked him for one. Mm-hmm. If you ask him, he says you have not because you ask not. And we're not talking about money and, you know, fancy cars and Travis's $54 million plane he wants, but I'm talking about, you know, the things of spiritual things. If you ask for them, you'll get them.
Right.
He'll show them to you. Now, one of the worst things you can possibly do is ask him, who am I? He will show you. And, man, that is one ugly picture I saw of myself.
Wow.
Whoa. Man, that's nasty. I mean, you know, so I learned maybe I better not ask that question again.
Well, he'll wake
because
you up.
He will show you. But, you know, ask him. Mm-hmm. You know, change me. You know, help me die to self.
Right.
You know, I want to die to self. You know, I'm probably, when I looked around and I got to think, like I said, I asked him to show me who I was, I just realized just how selfish I truly was. How selfish I probably truly am to some degree because still got that self wanting in there, you know.
Right.
And, you know, I'm going to cater to, you know, good old number one, you know. And what do they say in America? Always look out for number one.
Yeah.
Know? And number one should be Jesus Christ. But that's not who we're talking about, is it?
And that's what he said. You have to die to yourself. You have to say no to yourself.
And that's not easy. I mean, it's a hard road. And if we don't get together as a group and talk about it, even small groups or a couple people, just, you know, sharing coffee like we are, you know, how can we get to that point to where we're totally sold out to Jesus Christ?
And you just kind of, I think, in my mind, opened up another can of worms here. You know, people are what's important.
Right.
You know, and it seems like a lot of believers, a lot of churches, their focus is on an activity. And so, like you were saying, church is an activity. They go, let's say, well, we have a Friday night Sunday school class activity. And so I feel like it's going over and beyond doing that. Well, that's selfish right there because, you know, if you don't know anything about your church family, you don't know anything about those people that you're supposed to be fighting this war with and taking over the world with a gospel,
Right.
You got some problems. If you'd only see each other once or twice a week, only talk to once or twice a week, if I only did that to my wife, I wouldn't be married very long. Or if I did, it would be miserable for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe that's what happened in mine, I guess. Once a week, whether I wanted to or not.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why I was. I think when I used to go to church on Sundays. I used to go to church. I used to go to church on Sundays. Yeah, I don't go anymore.
Yeah.
I come to be with my friends, my fellow believers on Sunday morning.
Right.
And enjoy this, enjoy Christ, enjoy the music, enjoy the relationship. Pray to Him, talk to Him. I talk to Him during Travis's sermons, all the time. But he's usually I gain something from that,
right.
And He opens up my eyes, and a lot of things that Pastor says, he says, oh yeah, because the Holy Spirit's at work in you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not different than anybody else. I'm not any different than anybody. It's just that some reason He wants me to know this stuff.
Yeah.
He loves me. When you look at it the way I've treated Him for most of my life, it's an amazing thing. That God could love somebody like me that much. He came and got me and brought me back.
Mm-hmm.
And then He had to teach me a lesson. He took me down to absolutely nothing. I couldn't do nothing for myself in that when I went through the troubles. And, in that I saw when it comes down to it, before you take your last breath on this, the only one that's going to be there is Him.
Right.
It won't be family. It won't be friends. It'll be Him. And that's it. That's all we got. That's one where He's going to walk us right on out of here, right into His presence.
And our hope.
Our hope is in Him, and His resurrection, that we'll be resurrected with Him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a great day. Great day.
Which why would we want to live for this stuff here?
Yeah, it's become, there's no value in it.
Mm-hmm.
I never was very materialistic anyway. I come out of that hippie thing where, materialism was evil. In a way, it really is. Especially, American, it's all about materials.
Oh, yeah.
What you have. You get in my place, you're not going to find much. And it's not because I don't want it. It's because I don't want it. I have no need for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have a need for it, I generally don't want it.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. If I don't have an absolute need for something, I won't go buy it. I either have to need it, or I don't want it.
Yeah, and that's a good place to be at.
Yeah.
And, you're content with what God has given you, and He's provided for you, and He's going to continue to do so. Yeah. So that's
how can you miss something you never had?
Yeah, exactly.
Really, I don't need that.
Exactly.
But,
I don't know. There was a question that was at School of Ministry last week. We were talking about those things that quench our spirit and stuff like that, and I got to thinking a lot of people think that success, even in spiritual senses, is actually gaining and having more. So we have a pretty big campus here. It takes up a couple blocks, and we've done remodeling and all this stuff, and
the place looks like the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's like the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. Well, maybe one side of it.
Sistine Chapel.
No, God has definitely blessed us with that type of stuff.
Oh, sure.
But what if He doesn't want us to have it that, anymore? Yeah. We're at capacity right now in our numbers. We cannot fit. We are at like 92% or something like that in our, even just a worship service. That's what we're at. We are packed out, and so we need the extra room. And God seems to be leading in a direction, when I don't know, and building a bigger worship center and things like that. But what if He didn't? What if our campus was destroyed by a fire, or something like that, and we didn't have the building? Well, we'd still be the church,
well,
and we would. To me, it almost like we'd be forced into some, Acts 2:42 stuff.
Well, that's what I was saying. This whole thing just blows up all of a sudden, there's a bounty on us.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? We're going to have to go house to house.
Right.
Because they're going to bulldoze this building over here.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to bulldoze the church with it? I mean, or are we going to stick together?
Right. I think it's a good line in the sand there, because you're going to find out who really are. I don't want to say the faithful, because you can be a believer and faithful in a system and not be faithful to the right things. Right. But those that are true followers, those that are real disciples, those that are willing to say no to self, and it's no different than those in Syria that are having guns put through the head and asked, hey, are you a Christian? And as soon as they say yeah, they're dead. But they know that. They're going in knowing that persecution, that they have a target on their back because they're a follower.
Well, house to house works in other countries. I mean, you take like China, when old Mao Zedong come in there about, 1949, somewhere in there. There was probably 1 or 2 million Christians maybe in the country. If that many, I think one said is like 750,000 Christians. But and now today there's like over 100 million Christians in China, and this is under all the persecution and everything. And it went basically to house churches. Mm-hmm. And Mao Zedong, he wasn't a kind man. We talk about what Hitler might have done in Germany, but this man may have murdered up to 100 million people, during his reign over there. So, but the church prospered.
Right.
How come a church can be under such dire circumstances, meeting house to house, and prosper like that? And here you don't really have a care in the world. Just get up and go to church, down at the church house, and everybody meets up, and there's no power in it at all. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand that, how we can't. Is it too easy for us? Do we have to be? Yeah. Do we have to struggle before we snap into it, or what? I don't get it.
I would be interested in hearing our listeners come back on this idea of what we're talking about here. And I just want to let you listeners know that, hey, you can email us at coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com and tell us what you think. Give us questions, give us your comments, give your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you on these things. So I mean that's, we want to hear maybe some of the stuff you're struggling with or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because we're all in this together, so let's all work on this together. Me and you, we're working at it here. Mm-hmm. You got to start with the dialogue. Like the pastor says, it starts with the conversation. Yep. Even in the church, it starts with the conversation. If we can't talk to each other, why are we going to talk to anybody outside this place? Yeah. When we have everything, we should have everything in common here. Right. We're going to take this outside to non-believers and start a conversation when we're not even willing to talk to each other.
And I think it's a point, a good time to point out that our ages are.
Well, I know. I mean, you're what, 50 years older than me.
Yeah, whatever. Although sometimes I feel like it. But we, our ages, I'm 35.
And I'm 29.
And yeah. And then you woke up. And
yeah, I did. I woke up.
You're the older persuasion. I won't say how old you are. But if we're able to dialogue like this, or we're able to talk and share and have a friendship like this, well,
we're two different generations here,
yeah,
basically. Yeah. If we can have a conversation, why can't anybody else have one?
Right.
Why should their age be a barrier in there at all, as far as that's concerned? Yeah. But I don't know. We just seem like people just don't want to really talk about it. I don't think they want to be exposed. I think, to me, there's a lot of people. It's like being in school. You sit back here and the teacher gets up and asks a question. Well, you don't know the question, you hide behind little Johnny. Yeah. Don't call on me. Don't call on me. Yeah. So I think it carries throughout your life. Yeah. So
I think so too.
People carry that into adulthood, and they'll bring it in here because I guess they don't want to look dumb, which basically I am. But that's okay. I don't mind being dumb.
Yeah. Well, pride tells us that we can't even admit to that. Pride tells us that we can't look stupid and we can't fail
It starts with asking questions. People, they think they're going to look dumb if they ask questions. Well, how are you going to learn if you don't ask questions?
Right.
I want to learn. And the way I'm going to learn is to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I sit back here and be timid about it and don't ask the questions, then I'm never going to learn it.
That's right.
You know, I may hear somebody call off a bunch of, facts, but what's the chance if I don't get involved in it and ask questions? More than likely, I'm going to walk out of there and not remember everything that was taught in there.
Yeah.
So it's important to ask the questions. I think I'd like to see that more in the church service. But, let's talk about these things, Let's get real about it.
That's for sure. Well, I guess we're at a standstill right now. How about we take a little break, and because I need some more coffee.
I could use some more too. That was pretty good coffee.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Crazy. This is the old. What? Oh! Look out!
Yeah, we're actually sipping coffee from the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast.
This is Phil's
mugs.
House of Coffee. Now he's going to open this up down here one of these days. It's Phil's House of Coffee, and we'll invite you all down for a cup.
That's right, fresh roasted.
Fresh roasted.
From my backyard.
Are we just taking a break, or are we going to come back in a few?
I tell you what, let's take a break, and we'll just kind of say this is the end of this episode, and then we'll come back here in a few minutes, and we'll continue talking.
And do another episode.
And then we'll go another episode.
Oh, wait a minute. I think somebody's getting ready to step up to the microphone.
Oh, okay.
All right. Want to hold on just a second here.
Oh, I hear him coming in.
But he's kind of up there in age too. He's kind of slow, so he'll make it up there in just a second here. This is your old buddy.
Oh, not that.
That's not your old buddy.
Take two.
Take two. All right. That's my old buddy.
Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night. The party's over. And tomorrow starts the same old thing again.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
Old buddy Willie stepping up to the microphone. Last week we had Roy and Dale. Now we have Willie Nelson this week.
I wonder who we're going to have this next
time. Yeah, this is going to be pretty good.
Well, until next time, listeners, this is Phil, and
Jimmy Nic.
Good night and happy trails.